interacted with Kaine, I was reminded about something from my past.
I thought it was time jumps. I didn't think it was
Maybe
perspectives.
My mind has been confusing her with my sister this whole time. Here we go.
That's why it only starts here, because Emil's a freak and Kaine comes out of the wall. This whole time I thought it was time jumps or resets or something.
There's no
but it's what
time shenanigans.
It's what happens to X after the thing. What happened to
Well, let's see where
Sound
that
of rain
goes
filled the
before you
village.
get too ahead of
The
yourself.
steep cliffs that surrounded the area magnified sound, causing even the slightest drizzle to rattle like a thunderstorm. Thin wisps of smoke streamed from huts as the villagers huddled in their homes and waited out the rain. A single child, however, had braved the downpour and was now wandering slowly toward the wooden hawk-shaped weather vane at the center of town. The wanderer reached the vane, which had existed for as long as any could remember, and stared. The child's face was simultaneously delicate and fierce, like a teacup that had survived a shipwreck. Those traits combined with the pale white skin to give the face an almost sexless quality. If the beak turns east, I go home. If it stays west, then I. Child blinked. The rain slowly dripped down the young one's short hair and began its long descent to the ground. Come on, come on! The child felt a slight breeze and watched as the vane slowly creaked to life, spinning this way and that for a moment. It finally settled with the beak pointing firmly toward the east. East? Really? Before the vane could move again, a jagged rock came spinning and tumbling through the air, finally striking home against the child's head. Force of the blow dropped the child to the ground as a hail of stones began to fall all around. Oh no, they found me. A heartbreaking smile crept across the child's face as the stones continued their assault. Through the rain, the sound of multiple footsteps grew louder before a voice rang out. Yoo-hoo, Kaine! The voice belonged to Demo, the worst of all the bullies in the area. As Kaine struggled to stand, a final stone came skittering through the mud and bounced against her foot. Blood oozed from a cut above her eye and blurred her vision, but she could make out the shapes of Demo and his usual gang of idiots. The boy seemed taken aback for a moment by Kaine's seeming indifference to the blood dripping from her face, but quickly regained his bravado. What's up, freak? You like the rain? You like getting all wet? Or did you finally decide to run away from home? Though she knew it was futile, Kaine turned to leave. Before she could get more than a few steps, the other children scrambled to surround her, cruelty burning in their eyes. Kaine knew they were not the only. Kaine knew those were not the only eyes on her. The tormentor's parents watched from the safety of their homes. She was attuned to the sensation. It was one she experienced many times before. While some villagers simply turned a blind eye to the actions of their children, many encouraged it openly. I'm having trouble here. In a society ruled by superstition and fear, Kaine was something to be hated and, if possible, destroyed. Yeah, that sprawl shit is weird. Scrawl.
You can do it.
Fuck. I didn't say you could leave, freak. Demo's words chewed at her like a worm through an apple. He can't hurt me, she lied to herself. Be strong, be brave. He can't hurt me, he can't hurt me, he can't hurt. Oh, look, the little freak is gonna cry. What's wrong? You said that everyone hates you and wants you to... That's rough.
Yeah, I know.
That's fucking rough.
No, she gets it bad.
Kaine praying for the rain to flood down and carry her away from a world that seemed to have no place for her. No wonder she hates the area. If there were gods, they choose to ignore her. As Demo crept even closer, the clouds began to thin and the rain slowed. Even the weather hates me. I'm useless, a failure. I wish Demo's rock had taken my head off. Kaine couldn't meet Demo's leering gaze. She lowered her eyes and stared at the muddy ground below. The bully moved forward until he was inches away. She could smell the scent of old meat on his breath.
Delicious.
Grabbed Kaine's face and yanked it upwards. She tried to turn away, but he forced her gaze back and jammed his thumb against her eyelid to pry it open. You're a freak. No, I'm not. Did you say no? He grinned evilly. You didn't say no to me. No one says no to me. Not even taking his attention from Kaine. He called his cohort. Come on, guys. Let's give the freak what she deserves. Kicks and blows began to rain down. I'm getting like really uncomfortable. This is really rough and hard to read.
She gets it so hard.
Demo paused, still grinning as Kaine curled into a ball and tried to make the pain stop. Because like we're given a situation in which like you know kind of the whole game, you become attached, and then you're forced to read her backstory.
Yeah.
What you acting like a girl for, huh? Everyone knows what you really are. Kaine ignored the question, choosing instead to stare at the weather vane. If it continued to point east as if supremely confident about the future it had chosen for her. Go home? Yeah, that's a funny joke for someone with dead parents and no home to go to. Freak, chanted the children. Freak, freak, freak. Kaine closed her eyes and listened to the rain, waiting for the pain to start again. As the clutching hands of the village children closed around her, she bent her mind to the sound of the rain, letting it become her entire world. The rain fell, but the pain never came. Only when the laughter of her tormentors turned to terrified cries as she opened a single blood-caked eye. Kaine was shocked to see Demo sprawled on the ground, holding his head and screaming in pain. She could see blood welling from spaces between his fat, twisted fingers. Oh my god, he's crying. He's actually crying. Deprived of their leader, the other children glanced back and forth between themselves as if waiting for someone to step forward and take charge. When no savior emerged, they began an uneasy shuffle away from Kaine. But the young girl was the least of their concerns. Instead, their attention was wrapped on the ancient woman standing a few feet away. Oh, I remember she mentioned her grandma. After struggling for breath for a moment, she finally spoke with in a voice thick with rage. Hurts like a bitch, don't it? Now I suggest you scatter before I throw it. Okay, well here's where she. Okay,
Here's where she learned who she was. Yeah.
Awesome, Grandma.
Yeah.
If any of you little bastards ever touch my Kaine again, I'll do far worse than throw a rock. You can count on it. The old woman crouched down and gently touched the hand Dino was using to cover the wound. Before he could think to protest, she ground her palm into the wound and twisted it back and forth. Ow! He screamed, leaping to his feet.
Of course.
Stop it! What are you doing? Quit whining. Ain't no one ever died from a scratch. You hit me with a rock, you stupid bitch. A big one. That thing could have killed me. The old woman shrugged. Death is the best cure for stupid.
Get the fuck out
That's
of here.
such a good line.
Yeah.
Demo's face twisted with rage at her words. Locking his eyes on Kaine, he took a step backward and spat on the ground. Get out, leave this village. No one wants you here either of you. Seeing the old woman grab another stone, Demo and his companions turned tail and ran. As they fled, the old woman grabbed her side and barked out a single laugh. Ha, look at the fat boy go. Guess he's healthy enough to run from a fight. The woman's smile faded as she turned her attention to Kaine. Kneeling down, she removed her shawl and placed it around the young girl's shoulders, then produced a cloth from the folds of her dress, began blotting the blood on her forehead. Oh, Kaine, why didn't you fight back? You're stronger than that lot. The words of her grandmother stung Kaine, and she turned away. Don't be nice to me, she said. I don't deserve it. Nothing matters to me. She's clearly super depressed. Her tears, held in check for so long, finally began to fall on the muddy ground below. Everyone hates me. They think I cause bad things to happen. They think I'm a freak. I wish I was dead. As Kaine's tears turned to sobs, she felt her grandmother's hands on her shoulders. Despite her advanced age and diminutive size, she was a woman of surprising strength, and Kaine found herself unable to turn away. Don't talk like that, Kaine. It's a river wide and deep that flows between the realms of this world and the next, and it grants no mercy to any that attempt the crossing. You got a duty to fight until your last breath, understand? The old woman tightened her grip and tried to still the tremor in her voice. You know the pain of losing someone close to you, Kaine. You know, because you survived it. As the words hit home, Kaine was struck by the force of her love for the old woman. As a young child, she didn't even know of her grandmother, but when her parents died, the woman quickly accepted her as her own. Grandma, as Kaine called her, was cunning, vulgar, and quick to violence. And their first few years together had not been easy. With each year that passed, Kaine and her grandma had grown closer. However, it was only now, sitting in the mud with tears and blood caking her face, that Kaine truly understood the depths of her affection. Here was a woman who had seen hard times, who had seen death, who had fought through these things, and somehow emerged on the other side. If anyone can understand Kaine's pain and loneliness, it was her. Do I make you sick, Grandma? Of course not. Don't be an ass. Oh, I love Grandma so much!
Grandma's great. She's super good.
Kaine drew her grandmother's moth-eaten shawl around her body and shuddered.
I believe this song is called Grandma, by the way.
Yeah, it's not normal. If I was normal, then Mom and Dad wouldn't. Hush, interrupted Grandma. I'll not hear another word of this nonsense. You're my granddaughter and I love you. And if folks have a problem with that, then they can just go to hell. With that, the old woman reached out and placed a wreath of dried flowers in Kaine's hair. The skill it took to bend the flowers without breaking the stems or losing a single petal was remarkable. And the beauty of it made Kaine want to cry all over again. Oh my gosh, these are lunar tears. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Grandma, you made this for me. Lunar tears were legendary flowers. Most people could live their entire lives without ever seeing one. And yet her grandmother had somehow collected a dozen or more. Kaine reached up and touched the wreath as if she couldn't believe it was real. Where did you find these? Oh, you know. Just stumbled on them the day when I was out doing the shopping. The old woman turned away as she was explaining, lending Kaine to suspect that the search had been much more difficult than she was letting on. The pains she took to construct the ornament, let alone track down the flowers used in its construction, made Kaine's heart. I can do it.
You can do it. You're almost there.
She reached up and gently adjusted the wreath, admiring the way it felt between her fingers. Didn't quite turn out right, said her grandmother as she squinted at it. These old hands have trouble with the delicate work. Sure looks good on a pretty girl like you. Kaine blushed and turned away. You think I'm pretty? Of course you are. What a fool thing to say. Thanks, Grandma. Her grandma smiled. We're gonna be fine, you and me. Long as we got each other, we'll be just fine. Kaine took her grandma's hand in hers, and the two of them struggled to their feet. As they began the long walk home, Kaine gripped the hand with all her might, as if trying to stop the smoke from drifting away on the wind. The rain had stopped. Kaine stood beneath the weather vane, watching it spin in lazy circles, no longer caring about the direction it faced when it stopped. I don't need to escape. I have a home now. Grandma loves me, and that's enough, even if it's just us against the world. Kaine let her gaze drift up past the vane and into the cloudy sky. Last faints of a rainbow were slowly fading. As she turned and headed for home, the light scattered into a million particles and vanished, seemingly taking away on the breeze.
This is going to be a minute.
I bet it is.
This is why I tried to stop you.
I didn't realize this.
It's gonna be a minute.
In the distance, Kaine heard the stage sounds of an axe striking wood. The noise had a purposeful quality to it, as if she was hearing a master woodsman go about his work. Firewood being produced, however, was as far from a work of art as could be. Pieces of every shape and size were being flung about a barren yard with wild abandon. Anyone trying to stack such wood would probably die of frustration before the job was through. Stupid piece of shit axe! Kaine's grandmother flailed away with the axe, filling the air with both cylinders of wood and words that would make the most hardened sailor blush. Grandma, called Kaine. What? Yelled the old woman, taking her eyes off the wood for a moment. Oh, it's you, Kaine. Don't get too close or I might take your goddamn foot off by mistake. She brought the axe down on a piece of wood, sending chips flying in every direction. One spun past Kaine, close enough for her to hear the whistle, at which point she decided to step back. Once she'd scuttled to a safe distance, she cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted, Grandma, do you need help? I can get you water or lunch or a new axe or something. The axe, poised to strike another wobbly blow, paused in midair. The old woman considered her granddaughter's offer for a moment, then smiled. Tell you what, since I'm doing such a piss-poor job at chopping, why don't you come over here and take over so I can go get the water? Shades have been restless lately, and I don't want you running into one of them bastards. Relinquishing the axe, her grandmother picked up a long pole with wooden buckets on either end. Gathering water was by far the most difficult of the two jobs, but Kaine knew better than complain. Once Grandma's mind was set, there was no change in it. Kaine did her best to help with chores, but Grandma took every task that required travel to the village. Though she had a long list of plausible excuses, Kaine knew the real reason. She didn't want her granddaughter to be taunted and harassed by the villagers. Nice lady. Once Kaine moved in, the grandma decided to take up residence a good distance from the area. Out of sight, out of mind seemed to be the best policy when it came to the villagers and her granddaughter, and rare were the days when any of but the two of them could be found on the rocky acre of land they called home. Can you find this location?
Sorry?
Can you find this location? Is it physically in the game world?
It's unclear.
Okay. So it's either non-existent or the spot.
I think it's non-existent.
Or the spot that it used to be is like wrecked and it's no longer.
Like, unless it's implying that where you find Kaine is this place, but that doesn't make it so close to the area.
It's very close.
I kind of reject that notion. I don't think it exists, but I don't know. Maybe that's what it actually is.
It's not that far.
It's not that far.
It's right
exactly.
there. Kaine enjoyed the solitude, but harbored her secret resentment that her grandmother was forced to spend her golden years in such a place. After watching her grandmother leave, Kaine turned her attention to the task at hand. She had never chopped wood before in her life, and soon discovered why the old woman hated the chore. Swing after swing of the axe produced only a tiny crack in the wood. Once she finally managed to connect with a solid stroke, the tool embedded himself in the log and refused to budge. Frustrated, Kaine swung the axe around her head and threw it, log and all, across the yard. Damn it, ugh, crap! She suddenly understood the joy her grandmother felt and a good curse. Happier now, she picked up the axe, forced it from the wood, and resumed chopping. She had a natural skill with a blade, but the task was challenging, and blisters soon began to form on her small pink hands. Reminds me of Mythbusters finding out that swearing totally increases your pain tolerance.
That makes sense.
This is tough. And my logs are all weird sizes. Spitting on her palms and ignoring the pain, Kaine redoubled her efforts. Just as she was developing a rhythm, Grandma returned from the village. Setting down her buckets with a small sigh, she took one last look at the logs and coughed out a wheezy laugh. Pretty clumsy, girl. You better practice if you... Her grandmother suddenly collapsed to her knees, causing one of the buckets to wobble precariously. Eyes wide, Kaine dropped the axe and ran to her grandmother's side. Grandma! The old woman shook her head and pointed a trembling finger at the bucket. Get the bucket. Can't let it spill. Kaine steadied the bucket with a foot as she knelt by her grandmother. A small bit of water slushed over the side and made a new home in the hem of her dress. But Kaine didn't notice. She's wearing a dress in this flashback. Mm-hmm. Grandma, what's happening? Crazed with panic, she grabbed her grandma by the shoulders and shook. After a moment, the woman lifted her arms and batted Kaine away. Stop that. I just stopped, she cried, breathing heavily. Ain't like I'm dying. Just tired of the trip is all. Kaine desperately wanted to believe her, but one look at the old woman's shaking hands and worn face told her more than words ever could. Her grandmother...
Yeah, you're getting there.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
To sleep.
Her grandmother had lived a long, hard life, and it seemed the bill was coming due. The time when their grandmother watched over Kaine was ending. Sooner than either of them had feared, the positions would soon be reversed. The next morning, Kaine came to the side of her grandmother's bed and took her wrinkled hand. Grandma, you're sick, and you need medicine. I'm going to the village. Oh, this is becoming very... parallel to Lucky Ted's
a little bit.
shenanigan. The old woman shook her head and tried to rise, but Kaine gently pushed her down. It'll be all right. I'll be fine. Her grandmother fixed her with a gaze that could melt steel. After what seemed like an eternity, she finally lowered her eyes and sighed. Well, I don't like it, goddammit. But I guess I should quit being so stubborn and let you grow up. The old woman watched as Kaine strapped on her boots and made her way down to the village. Hours later, as an unseen sun made its
way.
So it does move.
Unseen.
Okay. She was still watching. Kaine moved at a brisk pace, checking her pockets every few minutes to make sure the money her grandmother gave her was still there. Every noise caused her to spin on her heels, making sure she wasn't being stalked by a shade, or worse, Demo and his gang. Wow, Demo, you really got a nice place in this.
Yep.
Worse than literal monsters. But she encountered neither tormentors nor shades, and Kaine finally found herself at the entrance to the village.
Oh, no trouble, no problem.
The few adults she could see glanced sideways at her, but then muttered to each other behind raised hands before slinking away into the shadows. What a bunch of fucking dick.
Well, think about all the people you met in the area.
I'm glad they all got fucking nuked. Maybe not. Okay, maybe not all of them. I'm sure
They were assholes.
I'm sure there were a couple non-asshole
But they
people.
were assholes.
Her heart racing, Kaine took a series of rapid, shallow breaths and tried to calm herself. I have to prove myself. I have to help Grandma. I have to be strong. She chanted those words to herself over and over as she slowly made her way. Finally, her eyes settled on a rotund, older woman who was angrily waving her arms in the air and telling anyone who would listen exactly what she thought of Kaine's presence. Hey, lady, said Kaine with a bravado she did not feel. Where's the apothecary?
Apothecary.
Apothecary.
You got it.
The woman's flabby cheeks shook in bewildered anger. How dare this thing speak to me, they seemed to say. But Kaine saw the eyes held a different emotion, fear. Yeah, we're both scared, lady. Trust me on this one. Which way? Kaine repeated. The woman pointed at a small building to her right before hitching up her dress and stumbling off in the other direction. Kaine cringed, expecting a stone to come flying from the assembled crowd, but none came. Her mind was filled with a strange sense of pride as she made her way to the apothecary. Why do I keep doing that in reverse? Apothecary. With the new motion and little time to take root, for as soon as she opened the door, she noticed a familiar customer at the counter. It was Demo. He'd clearly been sent there on some kind of family errand because his gang of followers was nowhere to be found. Oh my god. What are you doing here, freak? The insult was delivered without force, and Kaine happily ignored it. Stretching on tiptoes to see around over the counter, she asked the shopkeeper. Oh, so she's quite young.
She's still very young.
She asked the shopkeeper for medication. Ha! Barked Demo. That old bitch finally keel over? Go to hell, Demo. The boy's eyes grew so wide they seemed ready to fall out of his head. But before he could let fly comeback, or worse, a punch, the apothecary told them to knock it off before he kicked them out of the store. I like that. Fucking kids, shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck. Demo slunk out of the shop, cursing Kaine under his breath. Once he was gone, she allowed herself to breathe once more, taking a brief tour of the shop while the owner prepared her medication. Countless tiny bottles filled the cramped store, each with a label written in some indecipherable language. An ocean of aromas assaulted her nose, creating a scent that was exotic but not altogether unpleasant. Seeing such a variety of supplies gave Kaine a sense of peace. Surely, in a world so vast, there would be a place that she could call home. On the far wall behind the counter stood a portrait of a stunning young girl. The picture had once contained bright, vibrant colors, but time had worked its magic, and they were beginning to fade. The beauty of the work, however, remained undiminished. You like that picture? Kaine turned to find the apothecary with a small vial of medicine in his hand. His eyes were gentle but sad, and they seemed to stare through her into nothing as he spoke. That's my daughter. I sketched it when she was just a little girl. She's been dead just a long time now. Kaine didn't know how to respond. She just stared at the portrait and tried to come up with the right words. Pictures are wonderful things, continued the shopkeeper. They let the ones closest to you live on forever. He shook his head slightly and then looked down at Kaine and smiled. Handing her the medicine, he reached into his sizable green apron and produced a handful of old wax crayons. You should have these. There's no one left that I wish to draw. See, he was alright.
I like that line, though.
The apothecary guy's okay. Kaine took an instinctive step back, causing the shopkeeper's face to darken. Yes, I've heard the rumors about you, he said. It's a small village and word travels quickly. Between you and me, I'm not sure which of them to believe, but I also don't think they matter much. I knew your grandmother, Kali. Ooh, cool name. She's the great Kali. Is that? No. And I think the way she was driven out of this town is just deplorable. Grandma's name is Kali. Oh, I like that.
What? Yeah.
Thought Kaine. Same reaction as the player. Great.
Yeah.
Thought Kaine suddenly. She was still mulling over this new fact in her mind as she reached out and gently took the crowns from the apothecary's hands. Your grandmother is an old friend of mine, he said as Kaine scooted away yet again, and I owe her much. I'm willing to wager that she would like it if you drew a picture of her. Yes, I think she would like that very much. Kaine murmured a quiet agreement, but inside her heart was bursting. Never before had a villager treated her with anything but complete contempt. It was a tiny, almost imperceptible step, but it was a step nonetheless. With enough tiny steps, she might one day discover the rest of the world. When When Kaine returned home, she found her grandmother asleep in her bed. Her feet were blackened and raw, even bleeding in a couple places, leading Kaine to think that she had been pacing around the room until exhaustion finally caught up with her. She placed the medicine by her grandmother's pillow and turned to leave, but found the old woman's hand clasped around her arm. "Back already, are you?" asked the grandmother with a yawn. "Come here and let me have a look at you." She sat up and examined Kaine head to toe. Finally satisfied that nothing terrible had befallen her grandchild, she leaned back and allowed herself to relax. "Well, how was it? Did those bastards give you any trouble?" "It was kind of fun," said Kaine with a small smile. "No, seriously, it was. It was fun, was it?" asked the grandmother in a voice which implied she believed anything but. "Uh-huh. So anytime you need me to run an errand, just let me know." As she spoke, Kaine removed the crayons from her pocket. After a brief explanation of their source, she informed her grandmother that she was going to sketch her portrait. "A portrait of me? Ridiculous. No one wants to stare at a wrinkled old crone." "But Grandma, it'll make you live forever." "Horse manure," said Grandma, throwing back the sheet from her bed. "Living forever would just piss me off. Now put those crayons away and help with dinner." But Kaine would not relent, and in the end, Grandma found herself leaning against the wall of their house as if posing for a master artist. Kaine took up the crayons and eyed her subject carefully. Just as her grandmother was about to nod off, Kaine finished her work. After staring at it for a bit, she released it from her grip and let it slowly drift to the floor. "It's terrible. It doesn't look like you at all." "I'm sorry, Grandma. I thought these crayons would, make drawing easy or something." The old woman's eyes narrowed at her granddaughter's disappointment. "Let me be the judge of that," she said, ignoring the pain in her back and reaching for the paper. The sketch could have been a person's face. It also could have been a boulder, a lump of clay, or an incredibly misshapen loaf of bread, all rendered in a chaotic array of colors. So she's not going to make any title cards for us anytime soon.
No.
The old woman stared at the picture for a long time and slowly wheezed out a laugh. "Oh, Kaine, you truly are my blood. You're as clumsy as me and I love it. But hush, I won't hear any more bull about how ugly you think it is. It came from the heart and I'll treasure it always. Just stick it up on the fucking fridge."
Yeah,
True
pretty
to her
much.
wood.
Pretty much.
Gave the picture of her honor above the kitchen table. In the days that followed, Kaine would often catch her staring at the portrait with a strange smile on her face, and actually she interpreted as silent, mocking laughter. A week later, Kaine could stand no more and asked her grandmother to take down the artwork down. "Posh," said the old woman. "I'll take this down when they roll me in my shroud." She pondered this for a bit, then turned to Kaine and dropped to one knee. "Listen to me, girl. Seeing this picture makes me happy in a way I've never felt before, and it makes me want to go on, so that someday you can feel the same happiness." It was a moment that burned itself in Kaine's memory, a perfect blend of pride and love and joy that came together to form a lifelong remembrance. She swore to never forget this moment, to never forget the old woman who had made her place in the world possible. Time moves on, and people's memories come in and out of like ghosts passing through a hall. But this moment will be different, Kaine swore, because I will remember it forever. Forever.
Next one.
Are there 4 or are there 3?
I think there's 3.
That seems accurate. So, the funny thing is that like Kaine's grandma reminds me of my my grandma on my dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
She's French, and my dad, when he was like 8 years old, had his eye clawed out by a dog. He went to pet it, and like it slashed his face, and his eye fell out onto his cheek.
Oh God.
And he,
Oh God.
And he mentioned that he could see like different And she's very tiny. Like I'm very short. She's shorter than me, but well, not anymore. She's passed. But she was like 4'8" or whatever. And the guy had the fucking balls to come to their house. And they lived in Verdun on like those second story like duplexes with those spiral staircases.
I know the ones. I live in one of them.
He had the balls to come to their house and like yell at her for my dad bothering his dog. And she threw him down the stairs. She threw him down the fucking those spiral staircases.
Yeah.
And like just with the the audacity of someone, but this tiny little French lady just kicking this dude's ass down the stairs. It's just this. That's pretty funny. It's one of my favorite stories about her, and this reminds me of her. Everybody loves tiny old ladies. That being said, she wasn't an old lady at the time, but because I never knew her as non-old lady,
she will always be a tiny old lady.
In all stories, she's the tiny old lady version.
Of course.
Anyway, back to this old lady called separation, which I'm going to imagine is So Kaine listened to the sound of crackling firewood and stared at the black object on her plate. She'd been pushing it around the wooden disc for a good 10 minutes, ignoring the bemused state of her grandmother. Mm-hmm. Finally, she summoned her courage and gave the object a brief sniff. A sharp, bitter scent flew up into her nostrils and made its home there, causing her face to twist with disgust. "Grandma, I can't believe you want me to eat a bug." You know, roach milk is going to be the future. The old woman threw some more wood under the cooking pot and snorted. It's no bug, you fool girl. Girl, it's a berry.
Food girl.
I'm having trouble here.
That's okay. You've been reading.
Why in the hell would I be feeding you bugs? This is like a whole episode.
As I tried to warn you.
We're at like 30 minutes now of the. Yeah, well, it sure looks like a bug, said Kaine, and I think it's burnt or something because it smells terrible. With that, Kaine held her nose and threw the berry in her mouth, chewing as little as possible. Oh, yeah, that's terrible, all right. Why, you little brat, laughed the old woman. Look at the sass on you. You've been spending too much time with me, and that's a fact. 5 years had passed. There's a weird moment when you talk to somebody and you realize they're garbage, and the reason they're becoming garbage is because you're garbage, and you're rubbing off on them, and you can't tell them to stop being garbage because then you'd have to stop being garbage.
Yeah.
It's like 5 years had passed since the moment when Kaine's grandmother saved her from the bully. So she's like what?
5 years older than she was
15
before.
tops.
It's hard to say.
Tops.
There's no given age for.
She doesn't even have a clearly defined age in the game. She'd be anywhere from 17 to 30.
She's a regular high school, just like
Yeah.
Jotaro.
She's a regular high school.
A regular high school.
I'd love to go to Jotaro.
Just like Jotaro.
Jotaro Kaine High School. It'd be a fucking badass high school. 5 years had passed since as is often the way with two stubborn people. Their relationship had grown in fits and starts, but moved forward all the same. Meals that used to be summer affairs were now filled with laughter and hurled abuse in equal measure. That was a great moment when I became an adult and my dad's such a fucking asshole and he thinks he's so funny. And I had that moment. I was like, man, fuck you, Dad. That joke is terrible. He's like, you're a dumb kid.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Where you become old enough to understand.
And it's like, no, I'm not a dumb kid.
Yeah.
That's a terrible joke, Dad. That's awful. Kaine could not remember a time when she had been happier. As the years went by, Kaine started to shoulder more and more of the daily responsibilities. Her grandmother's legs grew weaker by the day, and she could no longer do many of the chores she used to take for granted. And so this morning found Kaine lacing up her work boots with a breakfast of burned berry rolling around in her belly. Where are you going today? Asked Grandma suddenly. Kaine looked up surprised. The old woman rarely asked I'm going to go check out the kelma trees and see if they're ripe. And I'm going to go make some jam or whatever. I'm going to get some flagstones and the wheelbarrow and flagstones. What is this? Kaine stared at her grandma, then held out an arm and swept it around their home, constructed mostly of cloth, rope, and rubble. The old place sagged like a boxer in the final round. That's a weird reference for this kind of narrative.
Pretty good, though.
Because, do they know about boxers?
Nah.
Grandma, a dying cat could chew through this house. I'm going to build a stone wall so we have some protection. The old woman laughed, exposing her toothless grin to the world. God damn it, girl. If a bunch of thieves want to ransack this old place, let them. We got nothing worth stealing. I'm not worried about thieves. I'm worried about shades. Legit. People saw one west of the village yesterday. I like the idea that the shade problem started to escalate exponentially maybe 4 or 5 years before the game starts.
Yeah.
Or it's a very rare occurrence and it's a problem.
But then it started being a real problem.
Because I imagine that's when the plan was supposed to work, and it doesn't fucking work.
Doesn't work.
Old woman tilted her head back and stared at her granddaughter. Well, shoot, I don't know why you have to do it today. We can worry about it some other. Grandma, no. But don't go to the kelma trees. We won't eat tonight. You know that. Confused expression passed across the old woman's face, and for a moment she was a small child lost at a carnival. Yes, she said after a bit. Yes, of course you're right. I'm sorry, Kaine. Lately it seems to my mind. Oh.
Dang it.
She didn't finish the thought. Instead of walking over to her nightstand, gently taking a wreath of lunar tears from the drawer, the flower's petals had aged to brilliant whiteness, and Kaine thought it was more beautiful now than the day she first received it. You're going to be a true woman soon, Grandma said as she placed the flowers in the girl's hair. So that means less chatter about shades and building defensive walls and more talk about how beautiful you become. Annoyed, Kaine reached up to remove the garland. The look on her grandmother's face stopped her hand. You're beautiful, thanks to the old woman, and there ain't another like you in all the world. Very proud of you. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Okay, Grandma, that's enough goddamn compliment. I love the speech change.
Over time.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Such a mouth on you. Where'd that come from? What do you think? Gee, I want... Yeah!
So.
I'll teach you to sass me, girl.
You ain't get
Grandma. Yeah, fucking sass. I'll box your ears.
Actually, though.
Yeah. Suddenly, she lurched forward and grabbed Kaine by the ears, pulling her around the room with a crazed grin on her face. Grandma, yelled Kaine in a quaking voice. Grandma, stop it. What the hell? The woman stared at her in blank and then slowly held her wrinkled hands out. It was the first time she had ever seen them. Oh, I didn't know what happened there. I'm sorry, girl. Sometimes my mind just... Kaine thought the look on her grandmother's face was the most heartbreaking thing she'd ever seen. Listen, she began. Maybe I ought to stay home after all. No, I won't have you stay here to keep an eye on old codger like me. You go get your fruit and your wall and whatnot, I'll be fine. And when you come back, I'll have a nice grasshopper dinner waiting for you.
Delicious.
She rolled her eyes and kissed her grandma on the forehead, made ready to depart, trying desperately to ignore the worry that was gnawing at the walls of her heart. She could feel the old woman's eyes watching her as she moved down the path. Don't turn around, she told herself, but in the end, temptation was too great. She spun on her heel and went for one final look and saw a small, bent woman standing in front of a ramshackle hut with a sad expression on her face. God, she looks so old now, it's like the wind could reach down and just carry her away. Kind of worried about her grandmother all day, causing her work to suffer. What little fruit she could collect was tossed carelessly in a wheelbarrow, and she only found a couple of stones before losing interest in the project. Finally, as dusk approached, she decided to call it a day. Cursing herself for the lack of focus, Kaine pushed the nearly empty wheelbarrow back down the path. As she crested the final hill, she suddenly froze in place. The wheelbarrow fell from her fingers and collapsed on its side, sending a few pieces of wrinkled brown fruit rolling back down the hill. Her gaze was transfixed by a thick black cloud that hovered just ahead, tracing its path with a finger. Kaine suddenly felt her stomach knot in on itself. No, oh gods, no. Her grandmother's house was ablaze, the flames licking up as if trying to touch the sky. Grandma? Kaine ran then faster than she had ever moved in her life. Once she tripped on a stone and went sprawling into the rocky ground. But she leapt to her feet and continued running, unmindful of the blood that spilled from her wounded hands and knees. As she got closer and closer, her mind began to race with her footfalls. It's too dark, not just fire. Can't be fire, too much smoke. Gotta save her. She burst on the front yard and came to a sudden halt, her worst suspicions confirmed. Smoke from the fire was mingling with the thick, inky blackness of an enormous shade. The massive creature supported itself on 3 twisted feet and achieved balance through means of a large armored tail. Scales, horns, and claws spread from its body in a random chaotic pattern, giving it the appearance of a lizard designed by some insane god. So, the super giant ones are human beings that had the sealed verses and caused them to go extra fucking busted, right?
I'm not really sure that that's the case.
You're not really sure what the case is with them?
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing Kaine, it let out a roar and flicked its tail, sending small whirlwinds spinning around the yard. For a moment, the creature retreated into its shimmering, inky blackness, as if her mind was unable to comprehend that such a thing could actually exist. Then the smell hit her, a blend of rotted meat and excrement, and the horror became once real again. The creature bellowed again, and this time Kaine responded with a scream of her own. "All right, you bastard," she thought as her scream echoed off the high cliffs around them. "It's you or me, let's go." She had eyed Kaine with bemused interest, then began looking from her to the house and back again, as if urging her to look at the destruction it had so gleefully wrought. Dread building in her heart, Kaine glanced at the house. Through the smoke and flames, she spotted a small figure struggling to escape the ruins. "Grandma!" At the sight of her voice, the old woman began waving frantically. "She's alive! She's alive!" Kaine's leg sprang to life as she raced across the yard toward the flaming wreckage of the house. Before she could advance more than a few steps, the shade opened his mouth and let a roar powerful enough to uproot trees and send them flying. Wow, that's fucking cool. Blast sent Kaine tumbling through the air before smashing against the rocky earth. Stars danced in front of her eyes as she struggled to remember how her legs worked. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up now. As Kaine struggled to her feet, the shade stomped towards the house and pinned the grandmother to the ground with the tip of a claw. The old woman struggled to remove the claw from her stomach, but she might as well have been pushing a mountain. She coughed briefly, sending a small spray of blood into the air, then collapsed to the ground, her energy spent. Kaine leaped to her feet only to fall back to the earth with a gasp. Her ankles were on fire. One or both of them were surely broken. Ignoring the pain that screamed through her body, she began dragging herself across the ground, leaving a drunken trail of dust and blood in her wake. "Grandma, hold on. Just a little longer." Her grandmother's face was turning blue, her eyes rolling back until only the whites were exposed. Kaine pulled herself across the ground with a maddening slowness, the distance seeming to increase with every second that passed. The shade glanced between the two women and flicked out its tongue, its giant mouth turning up the corners. Short, panting breaths belched from somewhere deep in its core. Bastard, laughing at us. She had no idea how such a mindless creature could experience emotion. There could be no doubt that the shade was taking in the joy of their suffering. "Yeah, I see your plan." The shade moved its claw slightly, allowing Grandma to breathe again. It was clearly keeping her alive, only to snuff out her life when Kaine was close enough to touch her. Kill this bastard. Summoning all her strength, Kaine rose to her feet. There was a sickening snap from her right ankle as the foot twisted backward, but she forced it from her mind and began to hobble towards the monster, pulling a small knife from a pouch at her waist. She leapt on the foot that pinned her grandmother and plunged the weapon deep. "Give her back," she screamed. "Give her back to me." It was like stabbing a rock. After a few swipes, the knife broke at the hilt with a dull snap. The shade panted laughter again, then raised its tail and sent it rushing through the air toward the young girl that was lashed to its foot. Kaine never had a chance. The tail struck her square on the chest and sent her crashing into the burning wreckage of the home. She lay on the ground with blood pouring from multiple wounds. A small, weak voice spoke up. Kaine? Her vision blurred, but she forced herself to focus on the sound. Finally, her ears closed enough to make her out her grandmother's hands reaching out to her through the smoke. Grandma? Kaine, you've got to run. You can't defeat him. Kaine grabbed the hands and held on with all her strength. Grandma, come on, we gotta go. The old woman coughed loudly. One of her hands slick with blood slipped from Kaine's grasp and slumped to the ground below. Grandma, no. I said run, goddammit. You have to live. You have to get through. The thought would stay forever unfinished. Before she could say another word, the shade's clawed foot descended, smashing through remains of the roof and down upon the shattered figure of the old woman. Blood oozed thickly from the gaps in the creature's toes as the terrible putrid smell assaulted Kaine's nose once more. She stared at the foot dumbfounded, convinced that what she was seeing could not possibly be real. When the creature finally lifted his appendage, all that remained underneath was a twisted, unrecognizable mass of rubble and red. Her grandmother was gone. Kaine blinked, trying to feel the hands which had been in hers just a moment before. For a fleeting instant, she could remember the warmth of that embrace, the trembling of the fingers, but then the sensation drifted away on the breeze and was gone. Memories flashed through Kaine's mind, one after the other, faster and faster, until they became a meaningless jangle of noise. She screamed then, a thunderous sound that echoed off the cliffs and seemed to roll away forever. Shade eased forward, black ichor pouring from his mouth and dissolving into smoke on the ground below. The earth shook with every step as it crept towards its prey. Kaine's body slowly rose as if controlled by a mad puppet master. Her arms and legs were bent at impossible angles. Her head lolled dangerously to the side, yet somehow she managed to stand. Staring at the shade, her eyes began to glow with a deep red fire. The creature, so confident just moments before, took a slow, hesitant step backwards, trying to discern if this broken human could possibly pose a threat. Kaine seized the moment, laughing like a madwoman. She left in the air and plunged the shattered hilt of her knife deep into the leg of the shade. Shade shook Kaine off like a fly, sending her crashing to the earth once again. Her chest rose and fell slowly, as if a great weight were resting on it. Moist sounds of pain echoed through her mind. Something warm and thick oozed from her ears. Is that blood? Think it is. Think I'm bleeding to death. No, can't die. Grandma told me to live. Deep inside Kaine's mind, something finally broke. The sound, the pain, the smoke, the flames, all of it faded away until all that was remained was a single incantation repeated over and again. Kill it. 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 Whoa.
It goes on a little.
Yeah. Kill it now. As the spark that was Kaine slowly began to flicker and die, she felt the desire to kill and her desire to live blended into one. The distance between heartbeats grew longer and longer and longer. Well, that was interesting. So that's what you were thinking about in there, huh?
That was also her past, so yeah.
Yeah.
The beast approaches. Oh, I got it.
That's a weird... I have the fucking...
That's not canon.
Okay.
That's not canon. Sorry, that's not canon. Because yes, that would look like time travel for a second. That's not canon.
All right. It's perspective, not time travel.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm not worried about you.
Okay, so smoke them.
Oh,
so
wow.
you keep your levels and everything.
Boy, do I.
So you should be a complete piece of cake.
Oh yeah. This feels weird after all that.
After all that, just mashing X to go through text. The writing's super good in the text.
Reminds me of Lost Odyssey, honestly.
Yeah.
Wooly should play this.
Actually, yeah.
Wooly should really play this.
Yeah, well, Wooly didn't want to play it.
Fuck him.
Wooly didn't want to play it so hard, I told him everything.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, because he didn't want to play it so hard.
What a poo-poo butt. Are you done? What's going on? Yeah, you're done. Oh, what? Jesus,
One shot.
fuck.
One shot. Poke him with your 300 attack spear.
I bet there's nothing in the game whatsoever to support this, but the way that's written makes me think that giant shade is Demo.
Yeah, I don't believe there's any.
Well, just the mental.
Yeah, I get you.
Like it seems to enjoy it.
I don't think there's anything.
Whereas shades very rarely show any emotion whatsoever otherwise.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to it.
That I will, in my head canon, that is what happened.
Because remember, that demo is different from
The shade demo.
the shade demo.
So it's just an asshole.
Yeah. Well, who is justified in his own actions, but...
Oh boy, you got me.
Back into it.
That's a fucking... Okay, so there are 4.
I actually forgot that there were
Gently,
4.
weakly, softly. The shade, sure that his tormentor was dead, turned and stomped off towards the horizon, stopping along the way to bellow one final roar. Couldn't kill it. Sorry, Grandma. Couldn't avenge you. Shame beyond imagining, Kaine tried to turn her head to the side, but succeeded only in coughing up a huge gout of blood. It was getting difficult to see, and only after a moment of fierce concentration did she realize that her left eye was gone. What? That's not true.
That's okay.
Laughing to herself, she turned her remaining eye to the ruins of her home and noticed the ragged stump of an arm resting a few feet away.
Keep going. They'll probably all explain itself soon.
Give me a minute.
Okay.
Because I always figured that the bandage was
Right.
because of a shade thing. I didn't realize that her... Okay. Yeah, that's mine, she thought with a mad giggle. This is going to make clapping a real bitch. Ha, cried a sudden voice in the depths of her mind. Finally going to die, all right? Well, you had it coming. Go to hell, Demo, she thought of the unseen assailant. Go to hell before I pluck out your eyes and feed them to a dog. The voice of her childhood terror evaporated into smoke, only replaced by another, more recent voice. Hold still, said the apothecary, materializing from the ruins like a ghost. I want to draw you. That way you can live forever. No, stop. Don't want to live forever. Don't want to die right here. I see, said quietly. Well, if that's how you want it. The spectral shopkeeper fluttered in and out of existence for a moment, then produced a piece of paper and sketched quickly. After a few seconds, he turned the page to Kaine and smiled. Since you rejected my offer, I decided to draw someone else. It was a picture of her grandmother, real as life. Kaine opened her mouth to thank the man, but stopped as the picture began to blacken in the middle. Before she could say anything, thousands of multi-legged insects began to swarm across the image, tearing at it with sharpened pinches. This sounds like that nightmare you have before you die. No, stop! Yeah. Don't hurt that picture. Kaine reached out with her remaining arm and waved futilely at the air. To her surprise, the insects fell off the picture into the ground below, where they vanished into the tiny black tendrils of smoke. Relieved, Kaine turned her good eye back to the picture, only to open her mouth and silent scream. The sketch now showed her grandmother as she truly was, a smashed, unrecognizable lump of nothing. Man, that is rough. The apothecary smiled, then broke into a jolly dance. See that? He cried as he danced this jig. It's perfect now. She looks just like you. Ha cha cha cha. I look like that? Oh God, I'm gonna die. Drowning in despair, Kaine laid her head back in the mud and the smoke of a ruined house and waited for the end to come. But just before she let everything go, an unfamiliar voice began whispering in her ear. Ain't you got a wish, sunshine? The voice was vulgar and fierce at the same time, as if insanity had somehow found a way to take form. Kaine wanted to scream as the voice crawled under her skin and her lungs refused to work. You know, a wish, like a prayer or something? Why don't you get on your knees and start praying to heaven? Please, invisible man in the sky, save me, save me. Ka ha ha ha. Kaine finally resorted to shouting at the voice with her mind. I don't make wishes, they don't come true for me. I'm a curse, a freak, I shouldn't be left to die. The other voice boomed in her ears. Blah ha ha. Oh God, you are the best. Kaine glanced down and saw a black shiny substance oozing from her leg. She tried to brush it away, but her remaining arm would no longer respond. The substance slowly crept around her feet and then began moving up toward the rest of her body. Is this death? Is this what it feels like? She said, just my mind losing itself. She could feel the slime oozing upward, feel the hot searing pain left in its wake. Whatever else might be happening, she was still alive, and this was real. Come on, said the voice, let it go. Kaine tried to ignore the voice and concentrate on the pain, but the newcomer would have none of it. Don't ignore me, sunshine. You ready to give up? Ready to die. So why not just let me have it? Have what? Your body. Come on, give it to me. Give it to me. I want to stand on the ground and feel the rain, taste the wind. Huh!
So this is a
human being.
This is a originally human trying to get back into a body.
Any body, for any length of time.
Yeah.
The voice paused as if licking its lips when it was filled with mad, unabated joy. And I want to take your hands and use them to choke the goddamn life out of people. I want to tear out their throats and bathe in the blood, just like before. Oh, so it's an asshole.
Yeah.
Kaine shifted her head and vomited. The warmth of it crept down her front and mingled with the pain of the encroaching black ooze. Are you a shade? Yeah, maybe. What of it? Slime reached her face, crept up past her nose, and slowly oozed in the socket of her missing eye. The moment it touched her brain, Kaine was struck by the most powerful sensation she's ever felt in her life. It was ecstasy. She wanted to scream with delight, but all she could manage was a small whispered moan. Feels good, don't it? Asked the voice with a chuckle. Yeah, what can I say? I know how to please the ladies. Now give me that body. Come on, give me that body and I'll give you more of this feeling. It's a fair trade. A black lump began to protrude from Kaine's side. She watched it grew longer and thicker, eventually taking the form of her missing arm. I can see better, she thought. My eye must be growing back too. Slime reached up to envelop the rest of her face, but she managed to brush it away. Stop, she whispered, marveling at how she had regained her voice. Stop. The black ooze hesitated as if considering this request, then quickly shimmered down her body before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Oh, what the hell, sunshine? Screamed the voice. What a deal. I thought you wanted to die. Grandma, I can't die yet. A brief image of her grandmother bloody and broken flashed before her eyes. She saw the shade that had killed her and heard its mocking laughter, then closed her eyes and forced the image from her mind. That's why her shade is a fucking psycho and attacks you.
Yeah.
Because it's a...
At that one bit.
Because it's a piece of shit.
It's not some other kind. Like it's totally. She's totally removed from her original self, and that shade is a totally different person in the first place.
Her whole body was squeaking with rage. While she opened her eyes again, they burned a bright red. That thing took my grandmother. I have to kill it before I die. Kaine glanced down and saw a mysterious pattern. The pattern of shades burned into her left arm. I'll be damned, said the voice cheerfully. Look at that, Sunshine. I think you and me are going to be good friends now. Kaine stared in... So she's like straight up disassociative. Well, not in the classic sense. It's not her mind that's broken, but there's a person.
She's in control, and it's not until the bit where she gets like run through with a spear.
Well, yeah, and then it can take control because she's super fucked up. Yeah. And that also explains how she was able to come back from that, because this thing can restore her. Yeah. The more emotional she felt, the more the letter seemed ready to puncture her skin and began infecting the rest of her body. The arm clearly had a will of its own now. So this arm is my wife. Holding her left arm and her right. Kind of took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. Come on, don't fight it, pleaded the voice. Hate's my favorite dish, and I'm hungry. Let it go. Feel the anger. Burn with the fire of revenge. Thirst for blood, and go out there and shut up and get the hell out of my body. Your body? Oh, that's rich, Sunshine. Real rich. Look, why don't you just up and die so I can have this body all to myself? What do you say? I bet those buddies of yours in the area would love to see you dead. She grabbed a nearby shard of glass and tried to saw off the shade-infected portion of her side. Before she could, her darkened left arm grabbed her right wrist, crushing it. She screamed and dropped the shard. Wow, this is...
Yeah.
Okay.
She fucking breaks her other arm.
Well, you're possessed now, and there's no going back. The voice laughed, this long, loud wail that seemed to go on without end. Possessed? Yeah, possessed. You and me, we got what you might call a timeshare agreement. Remember how folks used to think you were a freak? Well, wait until they get a load of you now. The sky seems smaller now, darker. Is this because of that shade? Is this how they see the world? So, listen. I know this whole possession thing seems a bit sudden, but it ain't all bad. There's plenty in it for you, too. A very powerful creature, Sunshine, and now the power belongs to you. You got enemies? People you want to kill? I can make it happen. That little fat kid who kept picking on you? That big old shade that squashed your granny? We'll wrap them up in their own assholes. I like that.
Yeah.
No more abuse for you, Sunshine. No more pain. Wait, you're Shade. Why would you help me kill another Shade? What, you think I'm some kind of racist? Some killing snob? I don't give a goddamn who you murdered, honey pants. I just want to drink from the well. Kaine considered this as she struggled to her feet, the power of the shade coursing through her. The smoke from her house was drifting away with the wind, and she enjoyed the way the cool evening breeze felt on her new left arm. After a long pause, the voice spoke up again. So how about it? You and me. We can have some good times together. Look, I'll even take care of the bloody part if you don't want it. Fuck off, asshole. I'll handle the killing. Ha ha ha, blah or blah blah ha. Look at you, oh Sunshine, we're gonna have so much fun. So listen, my entire I never thought for a second
you get a
that
name.
This thing would get a name.
Yeah.
Little on the nose with the name.
But it's there.
Really? Tyrant? Okay. I'll just be hanging out in this place, a piece of meat you call a heart. Now get to it. The more you kill, the more your heart turns rotten and sour. And I like rotten and sour. Kind of found herself nodding at the voice. Yeah, I think this can work. Gonna find that shade and I'm gonna strangle it with its own guts. And when I'm done, I'm gonna do the same to you, Tyrant. Count on it. Ha! I've shit bigger than you, so good luck with that. Oh, hey, one more thing. Right now, you and me are sharing this body, but if you ever run out of hate, if you ever know, go soft, then I'm gonna take over everything. So keep on killing, Sunshine, and watch your back. Huh, so, Voice grew fainter and gradually faded away, fading somewhere deep within Kaine herself. Kaine waited until she was sure the voice was gone, then waved her new left arm around a few times. It feels perfectly normal, she thought. It feels like mine. Desperately, she began poking and prodding at her new limb, determined to find something wrong with it. She didn't want to feel normal. That would mean the creature inside her had already won. I'm not a shade. I'm Kaine. Repeating this mantra in her head, she began slowly digging through the rubble of her house, being careful to ignore a certain red stain spot in the corner. Finally, after seeming like an eternity of heartbreaking work, she found what she was looking for. It was the wreath of lunar tears.
Which she kept, and you can see in her little hideout.
Yeah. Though it had been through hell and back, the garland's petals were as bright as ever. Kaine started to place in her hair, then slowly lowered the wreath and stared at it. Sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry, but I don't deserve to wear this. I'm possessed, corrupted, a freak. This time I don't think there's any going back. Holding the flowers to her heart, Kaine fell to the ground and sobbed. As night gradually lightened to dawn, and the people of the area arose their daily lives, she remained in that position, as if tears could somehow wash away the horror that now infected her world.
So that shade that you kill with her at the beginning, that's that shade. the thing that killed her grandma.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Well, the big lizard fucker.
And that's why immediately after that, she's like
Kaine,
intensely
you gotta live.
suicidal.
You
Yeah.
gotta come back to us.
And she's like, well, I'm done. My desire to revenge is gonna go. That means I'm
Yeah.
eventually gonna become completely possessed.
Yeah.
So that's why her arm and leg in particular
They're covered up.
are covered up because they're scrawled out to shit.
Yeah. Her whole left arm, her lower right arm, and her left leg.
Left leg
Yeah.
were massively ruined.
Emil.
Wait a second. At what point during the original plot did she put the flower in her hair? Because I noticed she had it in the final sequence, but she doesn't have it here.
I don't remember, honestly. I
That's
don't know.
interesting to me.
It might be after the. I don't remember.
That's fascinating.
Thank you.
And so now we have the proper context of like, listen, kid,
To see you, Kaine.
you're all messed up, you know?
Yeah.
Gonna get that damage tattoo on your forehead.
So that's a big part of the reason why like she's unclothed otherwise. Like that's her body.
Yeah. It's like showing off like, this is my shit.
Yeah.
I'm covering up all the part that's not me.
Like a reminder of her own identity.
Yeah.
Because like that was her big concern there.
Fascinating.
Oh, that's a long time. Any luck with
You got to
Data?
time skip.
We are still no closer to find.
I'm aware
This is
of all
for you.
this.
Lunar tears.
Oh, it was this moment right here.
Yeah.
It's nothing like the one Grandma used to make, but oh hell. Thanks.
Excuse me.
Popola, we did it. We freed Kaine.
Well, this certainly has new context.
Ted's so happy. Ted's so happy though.
That's great. Listen, can I talk to you for a minute?
No, bitch.
But you will.
This doesn't make sense.
Please, try to understand.
Well, now this whole fucking stupid stone quest makes more sense if they're sending me on it.
People are tired and scared, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry you have to bear the brunt of that.
It's crap.
It's okay.
Oh, and now we have a new
Dialogue.
context for them
No
being
one's
a bunch of
sleeping
freakazoids
outside.
and sleeping
You and Kaine
outside.
saved
Yeah.
this village, and
People are afraid of us. As long as
I
you're
hope folks
still
don't mind,
right,
but
Kaine.
since we already
I'm
saw
used to
these, I'm
Yeah,
actually
you
gonna
could- you
I'm
could
actually gonna
definitely-
mouse
Later.
through these
I'm
relatively
sorry.
Yeah,
quickly.
you should.
I just
skim
said
them.
mouse through these.
Mouse through them relatively quickly. But yeah, no, skim them. We've seen it all before, so.
If you would warn me ahead of time if there were any
Um,
significant changes.
I think the only significant changes are in
what is the
cutscenes,
matter?
so I don't
Kaine
think there's
always
anything to
sleeps
worry about
outside.
there.
How could I have not noticed?
I
that?
think.
What the
So
hell is wrong with
hopefully
me?
that's
We should turn
correct.
in.
But the big changes are in cutscenes and stuff.
I didn't get much sleep that night. This is back to Nier.
Yeah.
Lucky Ted, I mean. I wanted to blame Devila for everything. I wanted to grab Popola and strangle her. But anger won't accomplish anything. That's fascinating. You really should have. You really, really should have. There's, you know what I really like? In Dark Souls 3, when you attack that old lady, it triggers the frigid dancer,
Yeah.
right? And I like
Yeah.
ideas of like, if you figure it out early and attack someone, they'll just go poof,
You can do it.
and you'll fuck up the plot.
Or like, do you know the game Takeshi's Challenge on the Famicom? It's an absurdly difficult like anti-game that is like ridiculous, and it's made to be ridiculous. There's a guy.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
So that was a deleterious effects in the early stages of treatment in which they suffered a loss of self. That's the scroll. That's the mistake is that over a long enough period of time, human beings lose their sense of self entirely.
I believe so. Yeah. The only reason I'm saying stuff like I believe so is because again, it's been many years since.
And
I've,
there's a
read
lot
through this
here.
stuff.
There's a lot here.
There's a lot. There's a large density.
I'm
of things.
just
grab the items and stuff.
I'm just madly in love with the idea of like a contingency plan that's perfect but doesn't work.
Yeah. But there's this guy in Takeshi's Challenge, right? And after you solve a map for him that can take like 3 hours of just sitting and waiting for it to happen,
That's right.
what you have to do is immediately kill him or he will beat you to the objective.
That's cool, actually.
Fucking sick. It's
That's
so
actually
good.
really cool.
I really like it. That game's no good.
It feels weird to be back.
Yeah, definitely.
It feels very weird to be back with that new context. Where's my side quests? Do those retain?
No.
No.
Okay. But that's
Okay.
fine. We're gonna have to do them all fresh anyway.
That's fine.
Should probably.
But
head-
what will we do is go to this magical mailbox, which will never be explained,
and we're gonna fucking save.
and we're gonna fucking save.
But that
again.
shit doesn't make
That was
sense.
6:15.
See, now it says ending A next to your. If you just give it a second.
It does say.
And it adds B, C, and D as,
Right.
as you travel through.
So ending B is Kaine's. Ending C would be, I'm going to assume, Emil's.
We'll see.
Or someone's. And what? Who is ending? Oh man, this game is cool.
Yeah.